Hi and welcome to SQE Success, your pathway to becoming an English solicitor. In this video, we'll explore 3 scenarios involving duty of confidentiality of solicitors, a key topic in professional conduct under both FLK 1 and FLK 2. Let's dive in. A solicitor is advising a client accused of a serious and well-publicized murder. In a private meeting, the client confesses to the killing and provides specific details that clearly indicate guilt. Despite this confession, the client instructs the solicitor to enter a not guilty plea and wishes to contest the case at trial. The client does not want to testify and does not ask the solicitor to claim innocence on his behalf. What should the solicitor do in these circumstances? A. Keep the confession confidential and encourage the client to plead guilty in court. B. Inform the court of the confession, as the duty of confidentiality is outweighed by the need for justice. C. Inform the court of the confession, as the solicitor must avoid misleading the court. D. Inform the court, as murder is a unique and serious offense that overrides normal rules of confidentiality. E. Maintain confidentiality and avoid presenting a positive case, leaving the prosecution to prove their case. The best answer is E. Maintain confidentiality and avoid presenting a positive case, leaving the prosecution to prove their case. Duty of confidentiality. A solicitor is bound to keep a client's confession confidential, even in cases of serious crime, unless the client consents to disclosure or an exception, such as preventing serious future harm, applies. There is no such exception here. Duty to the court. The solicitor must not mislead the court. If the client insists on a not guilty plea and instructs the solicitor to assert innocence or put forward a positive case inconsistent with the confession, the solicitor must not do so. Proper conduct. The solicitor should not encourage the client to lie or plead guilty. Instead, the solicitor should maintain confidentiality, avoid presenting a positive case inconsistent with the confession, and simply let the prosecution to prove its case beyond reasonable doubt. Scenario 2. A client facing a charge of manslaughter privately admits to his solicitor that he was responsible for the incident. Later, the client changes his instructions and says, "I want to plead not guilty. Tell the court I was at my brother's place when it happened, he'll back me up." The solicitor knows this alibi is false and presenting it would mislead the court. What is the solicitor's proper course of action? A. Withdraw from the case and report the client's intentions to the authorities. B. Follow the client's instructions and present the false alibi, since confidentiality must be preserved. C. Disclose the client's guilt to the court to prevent misleading the court. D. Decline to run the false alibi and assess whether he can continue acting for the client. E. Present the alibi but make clear to the court that its reliability is in doubt. The best answer is D. Decline to run the false alibi and assess whether he can continue acting for the client. A solicitor must not mislead the court or present false evidence, including knowingly advancing a false alibi. If a client instructs his solicitor to present a false alibi, the solicitor must refuse to present that alibi. The solicitor should then assess whether he can continue to act for the client in accordance with his professional and ethical duties. If the client insists on presenting a false case, the solicitor may need to withdraw from the case. The solicitor must not disclose the confession or the client's intentions to the authorities or the court, as this would breach confidentiality. Scenario 3. A defendant is found not guilty of robbery after a full trial. His solicitor represented him throughout, but he never disclosed the full facts. Following the acquittal, the client privately tells the solicitor, "Appreciate your work. Just so you know, I was actually guilty. I just didn't want to get caught. The robbery involved violence and left an innocent person seriously injured." The solicitor is troubled by the admission and wonders whether he should now inform the police or the court. What is the correct legal position? A. The solicitor must report the confession because the acquittal was obtained dishonestly. B. The solicitor may reveal the confession if he believes the public interest overrides confidentiality. C. The solicitor is obliged to tell the court in order to comply with professional conduct rules. D. The solicitor must keep the confession confidential as it is protected by legal professional privilege. E. The solicitor should not report the confession because this affects the client relationship. The best answer is D. The solicitor must keep the confession confidential as it is protected by legal professional privilege. Solicitor-client confidentiality and legal professional privilege require that all information disclosed by a client to his solicitor in the course of seeking legal advice is kept confidential, even after the case ends, and even after the client's death. There is no exception allowing disclosure simply because the client was acquitted dishonestly or because the crime was serious. The duty is unqualified unless disclosure is required or permitted by law or the client consents. The solicitor must not inform the police or the court about the confession. Breaching confidentiality could result in professional misconduct and loss of the solicitor's license. The only exceptions relate to preventing future serious crime or where the client consents, neither of which applies here. This table outlines how solicitors should act when clients confess to crimes. In Scenario 1, if a client admits guilt but does not ask the solicitor to present a false case, the solicitor must maintain confidentiality and let the prosecution prove its case. There is no duty to disclose. In Scenario 2, if the client instructs the solicitor to present a false alibi, the solicitor must refuse to do so, as misleading the court is unethical, and consider withdrawing from the case. In Scenario 3, a post-trial confession must remain confidential, as legal professional privilege continues even after acquittal, and there is no public interest exception allowing disclosure. Have you noticed how a slight change of fact can affect the legal outcome? That's exactly the skill the SQE tests, and mastering it is key to exam success. I published books filled with MCQs, each built with 3 variations of a legal scenario to sharpen your analysis and deepen your understanding. It is a must-read to pass SQE 1. Turn your ambition into qualification. Begin your SQE journey to become an English solicitor.